Hello everyone, I'm Tim.
And I'm Vince, and we are
the Kandi Couple. First off, we'd like to thank and welcome everybody to our first ever video and tutorial, and also for all the love and support that we've been receiving since we announced the Kandi Bucket tutorial.
And because all of you have been amazing, we have a surprise for everyone. Drum roll, please, babe.
We're doing a giveaway. So that's right. So my fellow ravers, we are going to be giving away the bucket hat that is going to be finished at the end of this tutorial. That's right, my fellow ravers. The hat from this tutorial will be given to one of you.
To enter, be sure to click down below and subscribe to all of our other social medias and all of our different platforms. Links will be provided in the description box below.
Yep. Winner will be randomly selected and messaged on the 26th of this month of September. And now, without further ado, the moment you've all been patiently waiting for.
Let's start this tutorial.
Alright guys, let's go ahead and start this tutorial. So obviously you guys know you guys are going to need some bead and stretch. I know they say you're supposed to use the material covered one, which you're more than welcome to use. However, this is just the string that we are currently using at the moment. Some scissors, and of course a bunch more pony beads than this, but this is what I'm starting off with today. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so to start off, we're going to start making our flower. We're going to start with this piece right here. And we are going to start off by putting 6 beads. You're going to need a total of 12 beads to make the center of your flower. For the center of my flower is going to be clear. So I'm going to put on. I know a lot of people say the needle is a lot easier, and I am seriously considering investing in one. Alright, so now that we have 6 of your desired colored beads for the center of your flower on, you're going to go ahead and tie that off. Probably tie it off a couple of times. Don't ask me what the names of knots are. I'm horrible at that. I don't know what they're called. I think to me they're kind of all over under. One more time, just to be safe. Alright, and then you're going to go ahead and cut off the little piece of string. And then I'm going to go ahead and unwind myself a nice chunk, but still workable. There we go. Put that off to the side. Alright, so now that you have your 6 beads on, it should look something like this. Right, and then a lot of people like to do this. I also enjoy doing this. We're going to go ahead, I'm coming out of this bead currently, and I'm just going to run my string right through this next bead just to go ahead and hide that knot that I just made. You don't have to do this step, but I think it just helps hide that knot a little bit better. Alright. So now that you have this, so now we're going to go ahead, I'm going to continue making the center of that flower. So you're going to take the next bead, like I said, I'm doing clear for my center. You would take your next colored bead, put one on, and go right through that very next bead. Pull all the way through. Okay? Just like that. Then we're going to go ahead and add on another clear bead, and we're going to do the same thing and go all the way around until we're going to come out of the first bead that we just added on. So I'm going to go ahead and add on all those. It'll be a while for me, but a short second for you. Onto our flower. So you're going to take 3 beads of your desired color that you're going to be using for your flower, and you're going to string that on. And now we're going to skip over this bead, and now we're going to go into each point by adding 3. So we're going to go through this first point. I am weird, I do not pull my string tight. I like to add on more beads and then go on. So then we're going to go ahead and add on another 3. Go through that next point. Oop, got caught on the tray. So it's going to be making that star shape, which is going to be that end shape for us. Right. And we're going to go ahead and add on 3 more. And then we're going to keep going around until we get to the end. All right, and then from this point, so right now we're coming out of this white point right here, and we are going to be putting on 5 more white beads in between each of these points that are coming out. 3, 5. I'm going to go in through this next point. Pull that all the way through. Right? So you should have something like this. Alright, so right now my flower looks something like this. I'm on making the last petal right now. So remember, it's going to be 5 beads, and we're going from point to point right here. And then before I pull this tight, I am actually going to string. We're going to go ahead and string up through, where is it? There it is. The middle bead right here. So the 3rd bead in. Go 1, 2, 3. Oh. And at this point, every time I get to the end of like a section in a piece, I do like to take the time to go ahead and pull that tight. Not excessively tight. You don't want to snap your string. It does happen. I have snapped myself with string so many times. All right. Right, and then for me, I will go ahead and tie off here. You do not have to tie off here. This does not affect anything about the hat and its structure whatsoever. This is just a personal preference for me. All right, and then as you can see, this piece, we are now completely flat. Perfect. Right, if you have made it this far with me, you have now completed the flower part of your hat. Alright, so now we are going to be going ahead and doing the dark, this rim piece of the hat next. Okay? Then because that knot, and then it works out perfectly because we are going to go ahead, right now we are coming out of the top point of that petal. We're going to go through that next bead to its right hand side. Pull that through. All right, so should be coming through that 4th bead in your petal. Okay, so then we are going to go ahead and add on 3 beads. And again, I know your colors are going to be different than mine, but for me, this is going to be, I don't know if you guys can tell, it's like a translucent dark teal. All right. And then we are going to go through that 2nd bead of that petal, that very next petal. Okay? And do that a couple of times for you guys, because I know there's going to be a few times we're going to have to do it a couple of times together. And then don't forget, we're going to go ahead and then string through once you add those 3 beads on, you're going to go through that second bead of the very next petal, and then you're going to string through that bead, and you're going to string through that the next 2 beads. Right? I'm going to do this a couple of times. So right, we're going to go through that second bead of the petal, and then we're going to string through the next 2 beads on that flower petal. The shape will start to get funky again until we do the full rim, so don't worry about that. Alright, so we're going to add on 3 more of the next color bead. We're going to go through that second bead of that petal. We're also going to string through that top bead and also that very next bead, the 4th bead of the petal. Right? So then you're going to go ahead, so you see how that is? You got the tip of that petal, and you're coming through that 4th bead into that next 4th bead, through that top one and the next one, add it on your 3, through that second bead, top, and the 4th bead. Right? There we are. Leave that there for a sec for you guys. So then we are going to go ahead and continue adding 3 and going through those 3 beads all the way around our flower. Okay, you guys, so we've gotten to the last part, right? We have to add on the last 3 colored beads. So we're gonna string through, except this time we are going to have this string coming out of the top middle bead of that flower petal. All right, so we're gonna go through that second bead and then through that top bead. Right, and then you're going to pull that tight. Right now you should have something that looks like this. Right, so now here we are with one of those moments. So we are going to go ahead and add on another 3 beads to the string while it's coming out of that top middle bead, and we are going to string it through that center colored bead that we just put on. Okay. All right, so we got our 3 beads. Okay. And now we are going to go through that center colored bead right here. Oop, got caught on the tree again. Okay. And it will start to curve. Don't worry about that. It's supposed to do that. I freaked out the first time I did it too. I was like, is this right? So right now, you should have something like this. All right, so we're coming out of that middle bead right here. And then we are going to go ahead and add on another 3 with the colored beads, right? And then we are going to string through that middle bead of the flower petal. Oop. String really got caught on that net that time. Okay, so now you should have something that looks like this. You can see that you should have an X shape that's right here. Okay, we'll do it one more time on this next section because I know this could be confusing, especially if you don't make candy all the time, right? So we're putting on 3, right? And we're coming out of that top bead and we're going to string through that middle colored bead of the next set. Hold tight, right? And then we're going to string on another 3. And right now we're coming out of that, you should be coming out of that middle top bead, that middle colored bead right there. And then you should be stringing through that middle bead of the very next flower petal. Tight. Right, so this is what it should look like. Leave that there for a second for you guys. Double check what you have. Pull that tight. Right, so right now we're coming out of that middle bead of the flower petal. And then we're going to string up until we are coming out of this middle bead right here. We're going to go 2 beads over. Right, so we're stringing through those next 2 beads. All right, so right now you should be coming out of the center colored bead of those new set of 3 that we just put on. Sorry guys, I'm trying to explain this as best as possible. It's a little interesting how we did this. Right? So you should have something that looks like this. Should have like X formation in the middle right there. Right? So from here, you are going to actually. All right, guys. So now you have just completed, I'll show you reference on my hat, that essentially the dark purple rim that I have right here is now this dark teal color, right? So now we are going to be going ahead and making essentially this lighter purple rim that I have on my hat, except we are going to be using peach color. I really like the way that these colors complemented each other. It was hard choosing the colors for this hat, you guys. Went back and forth for hours. All right, so we're gonna add on 5 beads of your next desired color or colors, right? So right now we are coming out of this bead right here, and we are going to string it through that next middle bead over here on this set. So you're gonna skip over the X and then go through that next bead right there. Go through that next bead right there. So you're coming out of here, and then you're gonna skip over that X, and you're gonna run through that middle bead right there. And pull. Right? So you should have your next color going over that X like a rainbow. Okay? And you add on another 5. Oop. Right? Right now, we are coming out of this bead right here. We're gonna skip over that X right here. We're gonna string through that top bead, that right. So you should have something that looks like this, and then you're going to continue doing that all the way around. But this is where your piece of your hat should be, right? Coming out of that top colored bead, we're going to go ahead and we are going to run it through this, through the top right here, this green bead. At this point, I do like to go ahead and tighten just to make sure. See all that extra string? You definitely do not want this to be really loose. You want it to have some type of structure. Alright, I'm going to hold that right there so it doesn't get loose again. Right, and then this is where you guys should be. Right? So now that we're coming out of this top teal bead right here, we are going to go ahead and string through, and just like back down here at the white flower petals, how we skipped those 3 and we were coming out of that 4th bead, we are going to go ahead and string up through our peach on the next petal, and we're going to come out through this 4th bead right here. Right, I'm going to string through So I'm currently coming out of that top middle peach bead right here. Pull that through so you guys can see. And I'm going to go one more bead over to that fourth bead, and that's where you want to come out. Actually, guys, I am going to go ahead and tie off again right here. Again, you do not need to tie off right here. This is just something of a personal preference of mine. There we are. Now I can have you guys see it a little bit more clearly. There we are. So right now we're coming out of that top peach bead, and like I said, we're going to go one more bead over into that fourth bead. Right, coming out of that fourth bead, and then just like down at the white petals, we're going to be going over, we're going to be adding 3 beads. Right, now I'm using my opaque teal. We're going to take those 3 beads, and then we're going to skip over this X shape, and we're going to be going through that second bead of the very next petal. Right? Should look like this. Right, so then we're going to go 2 more beads over until we are coming out of that fourth bead of that petal. Coming out of the second, and we're going to go through till we're coming out of that fourth. Take the top bead and the next one over. Right. Going to add on 3 more. Right. Again, coming out of that fourth bead, that petal, going to be going over until we're going to go through that second bead of that very next flower petal. Okay. And then we're going to go 2 more over until we are coming out of that fourth bead. Right now, this is what you should have. And like I said, it is going to start to curve again. As you can see, it's flopping over, and that's completely fine. You guys are doing it good. And then you're going to continue adding those 3, skipping over those 3 beads of the petals till we get to the very end. The last 3 beads for this section. Alright, and then don't forget, you should be coming out of that fourth bead of that petal. And you're going to string it through that second bead, and you're going to string through that top bead and come out of that top bead. Right? Now, should have this all complete right here. And then just to give you guys reference of what area we're working on at the moment, right now we are starting to work on this, I guess, regular purple rim that I have right here on my hat. Right, just to give you guys some reference where you guys are at. You guys are doing great. If you guys are still with me, I believe in you. So right now we should be coming out of the top middle peach bead of one of those petals. Right. Now you're going to add on another 3 of your desired color bead, and you're going to now string 3 right through that teal opaque bead with the top point, like so, just like how we did down here with this translucent teal. Okay, I'm going to string on another 3, and now you are going to go through that middle point bead of the peach petal. Okay. Should look like this at the moment. Alright, so again, we're coming out of that top point peach bead. We're going to string on 3, and go through that next colored bead point. String on another 3. And then go through the top bead of that next peach petal. Alright, so right now, this is what you should have. Similar to this section right here. Right, and we're going to continue going on, putting on the sets of 3 all the way around till we get to the end. And I may need to have to add some string. And then we're going to string through that next teal point. And last 3. And we're going to string through that middle pink peach bead. So now guys, the circle is complete, which means now you guys have finished this piece of your hat. Right? If you guys are still with me, believe it or not, the top of your hat is almost done. Okay? So now, have you guys really see this? So right now we are coming out of the middle peach bead right here. Okay, so now we are going to string up. We're going to go ahead and string up through these set of 3 through that middle until we are coming out of this teal bead right here. Let's see if I can string this for you guys up close, super up close. Right, coming out of that peach, we're going to go through that these next 2 teal beads right here, right? Pull that through. Okay, we're not done yet. Right, then we're going to string through this next bead right here down till you're coming out of the middle of that X shape. See right here, you're coming out of that middle bead here of that X. Ooh, pull too hard. Where am I at? There we go. Okay, so then we're gonna string up 2 more beads till we're coming out of this point right here. Right here. Okay. You guys are coming out of this point right here. Now, this next step is going to be aesthetically for the hat. Based on where our seam is, if this step did not happen, your hat would have holes in the top. I don't believe that this next step affects the structure. However, we have never made a hat without this step. So I am still going to do this step. So you are coming out of your top 3 teal beads right here off the top point. Okay, right above that X. Okay, you're going to add on 1 bead. Okay, and you're going to go right through that very next point right here. Okay, till you fill that hole. Now it doesn't have that hole anymore. Okay, so now we're going to string through. Coming out of this bead right here. Now you're going to string through that X till you're coming out of that point that is right here above that next X. Okay, go through 1, 3 beads, and that 4th bead. Okay, coming out of that other point of those sets of 3 that we had just put on. Alright, you guys, getting ready to put on that last bead for this one. So don't forget, we're coming out of that top teal point. I just added that center bead right here. And I'm going to string through the next 4 beads till we're coming out of this point that is right here and there. strung through, so now we're coming out through that top point, and we're going to add on that last bead. Right through that next point, very next point right here. Alright, so now this is what you should have. You see how the bead actually, now that I really look at it, you guys, the bead, extra bead, actually makes this start to go flatter. And it also gives you that really nice soft flower ripple around the edge. Alright guys, so we have now finished this rim piece of the hat. This is the piece we just finished together, right? So now we are going to start working on this lighter purple layer that is right down here, okay? So now you're coming out of that, essentially that top bead right here, which is where we're supposed to be coming out of. At this time, if you have really loose beads, you can go ahead and tighten that. I've already tightened mine. So then from here, we are going to be adding on 5 beads. For me, it's going to be clear. Right? Then we are going to be going into that, skipping over the X like a rainbow again, if you guys remember that, and then we are going to go through that top point bead right here, going over that X shape like a rainbow. See that X? And then, now that we're coming out of that point, now this bead right here is that extra bead that we just put on. So we're going to string through that and the very next bead right next to it. Go through that very next bead and the one right after that. So your string right now should be going through these 3 beads and coming out of this bead right here. Okay? I'm going to add on 5 more beads. Skip over the X and go right through that next point, going over it like a rainbow. If I can grab the string, there we go. Alright, this is how it should be. If you guys are starting to get confused, don't forget, it's the exact same thing we did back here with the translucent teal and the peach. Right, and then you're going to continue doing that all the way around, and then we'll do that last one together. Remember, you don't want it excessively tight, but you don't want it loosey-goosey either. The hat's already pliable enough. For me, again, you do not have to do this part, but for me, I am going to tie off right here. All right, there we are. All right, you guys, so we just finished stringing the last 5 clear beads and then we strung up, so now we are coming out of the top clear bead on the next set over. Okay, and then I actually went ahead and tied a knot here. Again, that is personal preference. And then now we are actually going to put the string through that very next bead, so we're coming out of that 4th bead. Right, so now we're coming out of that 4th bead right here. Right, and then from here we are going to add on an additional 3 beads. Right, and then we are going to string through that 2nd clear bead on the next set of clears over. It will start to curve again. That's completely fine. Right? So now we're coming out of that 2nd clear bead, and then we're going to string over the next 2 beads till we're coming out of that 4th bead. It's going to be the exact same thing that we did down here with the opaque teal, and the same thing we did down here with the translucent, how we're skipping over those 3. Should have this coming out of that 4th bead, adding those 3, going into that 2nd bead, and then stringing through till now we're coming out of that 4th bead right here, and then we're going to add on another 3 clear beads. Going in through that 2nd clear bead, and then going to string over 2 till we're coming out of that 4th bead. Oop. Right, then you should have this. And then we're going to continue doing that all the way around, and then we'll come back together at the end. And we're going to go through that 2nd bead, and then we're going to actually come out that top top bead, so that third bead in the middle. Just like that. Go ahead and pull tight. Right? So then you should have this. Right? We're coming out of that middle clear bead right here. I am going to go ahead and tie off here just because I don't want to keep yanking this string over and over again to keep that tightness. It gives it a little bit of a break, just like that. See, we got like a little bowl happening here. Okay. All right, guys, we are finally on the very last step to finish the top of your guys' hat. On the inside of our hats, if you notice, I have these sets of 2 dark purple beads that are going all the way around inside. This is actually, we are about to make the inner seam of your hat, which is actually what gives it the bucket hat shape. Without this inner seam, the hats end up looking somewhat like a top hat. Which is very common for a lot. There is a couple of different style bucket hats that are online, but they all look, the body is longer. This just gives it that inner seam, gives it that more of a bucket hat shape. It doesn't allow it to take the big structure of a top hat. Okay, so this is the big secret of our hats as far as shape and structure goes. So now we are going to be making that inner seam right now. Finally on the very last step to finish the top of your guys' hat. All right, so when we're coming out, that top middle clear bead right here. That. And then we are going to add on 2 beads. Oh. Almost forgot what color scheme I was going with. For me, it's going to be white. String it on 2. And then I am going to go through from those sets of 3 that we just put on, I am going to go through that middle bead. Coming out of that middle bead from that first set of 3 clear that we just put on. I'm going to put on another 2 white beads. And then I'm going to go in through that next clear point right here, that middle bead. Just like that. Right, and we're going to keep adding 2 until we get all the way around. Then you want to go ahead and tie off at this point. sure you guys do it a couple of times. Ah. Then you guys can leave this string on for just right now. If you need to add more string on like how I do, it's pretty short at this moment, go ahead and do so. But right now, guys, if you guys are finished tying off, congratulations, you guys have now finished the entire top of your hat. See, so now we've created this entire rim, this lighter purple rim down here. My sprouts. Okay. And we've completed the inner seam, which the inner seam will get folded more inward as we start building the body of the hats. So if it's still looking like a bowl shape, that's completely fine. All right, good job, guys.